Good morning, students. This topic is from paper 203 and lipid metabolism. In that, what I'll be going through in this lecture is biosynthesis of triglycerols, phospholipids, and sphingolipids. We'll take few examples of phospholipids and sphingolipids, and then we'll see how biosynthesis is happening. Okay, so before going into the biosynthesis, you remember last in semester I have taken up nutrition, and I was talking about brown fat and white fat, that how it affects the obesity. So the basic storage of energy of fat in terms like in animals or plant origin is in terms of triglycerides. So I suppose you know what are triglycerides. Triglycerides are, or it's called as triglycerols monomeric, consist of trihydric alcohol, that is glycerol, esterified with long chain fatty acids. When the two primary hydroxyl groups are esterified with different fatty acids, the resulting triglycerol can display chiral symmetry. That is what you were trying to describe in terms of RS system or DL system or SN, that is spectroscopic numbering of the carbon, like if it is position 1, 2, or 3, right? With that basics, we'll start. Most of the fatty acids what we take or ingested by the organism goes into two fates. Either it goes into storage of metabolic energy, or the synthesis pathway goes into the formation of phospholipid that makes the components of the membrane. All eukaryotic organisms and even few prokaryotes are able to synthesize triglycerols, and in animal, many cell types and organs have this ability, but the liver, intestine, and adipose tissue are the most active. Within all cell types, even those of brain, triglycerols are stored as cytoplasmic lipid droplets enclosed by monolayers of phospholipids and hydrophobic proteins such as perilipins in case of adipose tissue and oleosins in case of seeds. These lipid droplets are now treated as distinct organelles with their own characteristic metabolic pathway and associated enzymes. So they are very much common in all the species. The lipid serves as store of fatty acids for energy, or as a reserve of fatty acid for structural purposes, or as precursor for eicosanoids. That is what I told you. They can have two fates. Either they can be used for breakdown and release of energy, or they can be used for synthesis of structural components. So the biosynthesis of triacyl glycerols has three steps. First, synthesis of the backbone, the glycerol backbone, that is synthesis of glycerol phosphate, then conversion of free fatty acids to its activated form. Conversion of free fatty acids to its activated form, I am not talking more in this, because you remember beta oxidation, what I started with, where the fatty acids which are absorbed into the cytosol of the cell or into the epidermal cells of the intestine, they are converted into fatty acyl CoA by the enzyme acyl CoA synthase with the help of ATP getting converted to AMP and pyrophosphate and acetyl CoA, thereby forming the activated fatty acyl CoA. So now in this lecture, what I'll be talking about is how glycerol phosphate is formed. That also part of it is the glycolysis, and then the key steps which makes the glycerol phosphate I'll be talking, and most of it will be the synthesis of triacyl glycerol molecules in case of if you take different fatty acids attached, whether it is one fatty acid attached, two fatty acid attached, all the three OH groups group of glycerol, 3 fatty acids attached, how they are made stepwise in different pathways we will talk about, and also synthesis of triacyl glycerol little in case of E. coli, how it is different, that we will talk about with respect to phospholipids. And then we'll end the lecture by talking about sphingolipid biosynthesis. So the first step is synthesis of glycerol phosphate. You all know that glycolysis starts with glucose, and then glucose is converted to a isomeric forms of glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. This dihydroxyacetone phosphate is very key for the synthesis of glycerol 3-phosphate, because this dihydroxyacetone phosphate, you can see it is composed of 3 carbon central ketone group, and other 2 are alcohol. Out of that, 1 is attached to a phosphate. So glycerol 3-phosphate dehydrogenase is an enzyme which converts this dihydroxyacetone phosphate to L-glycerol 3-phosphate. There is another pathway by which this glycerol 3-phosphate can be generated, that is by converting glycerol, the glycerol, with the help of glycerol kinase, using the energy of ATP getting converted to ADP, and then 1 phosphate will be added to glycerol, making it as glycerol 3-phosphate. Okay. So followed by this, there are 3 pathway for synthesis of triacyl glycerol biosynthesis. The SN3, that is the third carbon of the glycerol 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate pathways, which predominate in liver and adipose tissue, and monoacyl glycerol pathway in intestine. There is also one more pathway in maturing plant seeds and some animal tissue. The 4th pathway has been recognized, which uses the enzyme diacylglycerol transferase. We'll see how it is carrying out the synthesis of triacylglycerol. The most important route to synthesize triacylglycerols is the glycerol 3-phosphate pathway, or the Kennedy pathway. Because Eugene Kennedy and his colleagues in 1950 were the people who came out with this synthesis pathway, how triacylglycerol is produced by using this pathway. So in this pathway, the main source of glycerol backbone is SN-glycerol 3-phosphate produced by catabolism of glucose, that is using glycolysis, or to a lesser extent by the action of the enzyme glycerol kinase on free glycerol. Glyceroneogenesis also, with the help of pyruvate, also can act as a source for the formation of glycerol 3-phosphate in case of adipose tissue. Subsequently, reactions occur primarily in or at endoplasmic reticulum. First, the precursor, that is SN-glycerol 3-phosphate, is esterified with fatty acid coenzyme A ester in a reaction catalyzed by glycerol 3-phosphate acyl transferase at a position SN1 to form lysophosphatidic acid. We'll see the pathway. So glycerol 3-phosphate is the starting material. With the help of glycerol 3-phosphate acyl transferase, it forms at the C1 position. The fatty acyl CoA is added, so it forms lysophosphatidic acid. Lysophosphatidic acid is utilized by acyl glycerol phosphate acyl transferase, which transfers another fatty acyl CoA. Using fatty acyl CoA, the breakdown of CoA and fatty acid bond is enough to carry out this reaction to transfer one more fatty acid to the C2 SNC2 carbon. Is carried out by acyl glycerol phosphate acyl transferase that forms phosphatidic acid. This phosphatidic acid is very critical because that forms the branching for another phospholipids to be synthesized. In case of triacylglycerol, phosphatidic acid is used by phosphatidic acid phosphohydrolase that will remove the phosphate group, or else it is also called as phosphatase activity. So much of the phosphatase activity leading to triacylglycerol biosynthesis in animals resides in 3 related cytoplasmic proteins termed as lipins, that is lipin 1, 2, and 3. Lipin 1 has 3 isoforms and account for the most of phosphatase activity in adipose tissue and skeletal muscles in humans. Lipin 2 is the most abundant lipin in liver, but is also expressed subsequently in small intestine, macrophages, and some regions of brain. Lipin 3 is overlapping activity. It is found in some tissues of A1 and 2. Lipins are cytosolic enzymes but associate transiently with membranes to assess their substrate. That is, they are translocated to the endoplasmic reticulum in response to elevated levels of fatty acids. It's interesting to know that they require magnesium ions and they can be inhibited by N-ethyl malamide, where the membrane bound is not inhibited. So they can be a target for any pharmacological studies. So phosphatases remove the phosphate and phosphatidic acid is converted to diacylglycerol. Diacylglycerol, with the action of diacyl-acyl transferase, transfer one more fatty acyl CoA to forming the triacylglycerol. I'll repeat this once again. Glycerol 3-phosphate, which is synthesized by catabolism of glucose and dihydroxyacetone phosphate converting into glycerol 3-phosphate, or glycerol converting into glycerol 3-phosphate, is acted on by glycerol 3-phosphate acyl transferase to form the lysophosphatidic acid. Lysophosphatidic acid is further converted to phosphatidic acid with the help of an enzyme acylglycerophosphate acyl transferase, and phosphatidic acid is converted into diacylglycerol with the help of the enzyme phosphatidic acid phosphohydrolase, and then diacylglycerol is further converted to triacylglycerol with the help of the enzyme diacylglycerol acyl transferase. The final step of this pathway, the resulting 1,2-diacyl SN-glycerol, is activated by diacylglycerol acyl transferase, which can utilize a wide range of fatty acyl CoA esters to form triacyl glycerol. In animal, diacylglycerol acyl transferase, which I further call it as DGAT, there are two isoforms, isoform 1 and isoform 2. Isoform 1 is mainly located in endoplasmic reticulum and is expressed in skeletal muscle, skin, intestine, and with lower levels of expression in liver and adipose tissue. It's interesting to know that diacylglycerol acyl transferase 1 can utilize a wide range of substrate including monoacylglycerol, long chain alcohol, and retinol, and it is important to have an role in protecting the endoplasmic reticulum from lipotoxic effects of high fat diet. Orthologs of these enzymes are also present in eukaryotes other than yeast and in plants especially. The diacylglycerol acyl transferase 2 is the main enzyme that is seen in hepatocytes and adipocytes. It is believed to have a targeting domain that enables it to tether between the endoplasmic reticulum and the lipid droplet, thereby channeling the triacylglycerol from the synthesis site in the endoplasmic reticulum to the nascent lipid droplet site. Diacylglycerol acyl transferases are dedicated triacylglycerol forming enzymes, and they are seen as the best target for pharmacological interventions in obesity and attendant ailments. Clinical studies of isoform 1 inhibitors are in early stage. That was the first pathway. Now you will come to second pathway. Second pathway of synthesis of diacylglycerols is using the dihydroxyacetone phosphate. This is generally seen in peroxisomes or endoplasmic reticulum, can be acylated by a specific acyl transferase to form 1-acyl dihydroxyacetone phosphate, which is reduced by dihydroxyacetone phosphate oxidoreductase to form lysophosphatidic acid, which can then enter the pathway about to triglyceride. The meaning of this is dihydroxyacetone phosphate. With the help of this enzyme, dihydroxyacetone phosphate oxidoreductase can form the transfer of one fatty acyl CoA. Also, this 1-acyl dihydroxyacetone phosphate getting convert, it's an oxidoreductase, so it is getting convert to lysophosphatidic acid, and that can go into the glycerol 3 phosphate pathway. In enterocytes of intestine, after a meal, up to 75% of triacylglycerol are formed via monoacyl glycerol pathway. Two monoacyl SN glycerols and free fatty acids release from dietary triglycerols by the action of pancreatic lipase within the intestine are taken up by enterocytes. These monoacyl glycerols are first acylated by an acyl CoA acyl coenzyme A monoacyl glyceroacyl transferase with formation of SN1,2 diacyl glycerol. This is a monoacyl glycerol pathway in which you have the two monoacyl SN glycerol. With the help of the enzyme monoacyl glycerol acyl transferase, you have transfer of fatty acids and you can form SN1,2 or 2,3 diacyl glycerol. Again, with the help of diacyl glycerol acyl transferase, you have the formation of triacyl glycerols. There are three isoforms of monoacyl glycerol acyl transferase in humans, of which type 2 is most active in the intestine and liver, and type 1 in adipose tissue. Finally, the acyl coenzyme A diacyl glycerol acyl transferase reacts with the SN1,2 diacyl glycerols only to form triacyl glycerols. So only with 1,2 it is getting converted to triacyl glycerol. So till now we have come across three pathway. One using glycerol 3 phosphate, second using dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and the third one using monoacyl N-glycerol. In the fourth biosynthetic pathway, which is less well known, triacyl glycerols are synthesized by a transacylation reaction, taking the acyl group of one diacyl glycerol or monoacyl glycerol and then putting into another mono or diacyl glycerol to form one more higher acyl glycerol is what is happening here. Triacyl glycerols are synthesized by the transacylation reaction between two racemic diacyl glycerols, that is independent of acyl CoA. The reaction was first detected in endoplasmic reticulum of intestinal microvillus cells and is catalyzed by diacyl glycerol transacylase. Both diacyl glycerol enantiomers participate in the reaction with equal facility to transfer the fatty acyl group with formation of triacyl glycerols and two monoacyl SN glycerols. It is also observed in case of formation of seed oils. So you can have SN1,2 diacyl glycerol or SN2,3 diacyl glycerol. Then you can have this enzyme diacyl glycerol transacylase, which can transfer one acyl group to other, forming a various combinations of triacyl glycerol. Also there can be monoacyl glycerols. So till now we have come across four pathways of synthesis of triacyl glycerol. In prokaryotes, the glycerol 3 phosphate pathway of triacyl glycerol biosynthesis only occurs. But in case of yeast, both the glycerol 3 phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate can be the primary precursor, and synthesis takes place in cytoplasmic lipid droplets and the endoplasmic reticulum. While triacyl glycerols are essential for normal physiology, and excessive accumulation in human adipose tissue and other organs results in obesity and other health problems, including insulin resistance, steatohepatitis, and cardiomyopathy. So triacyl glycerol synthesis is highly regulated. Like the amount of body fat stays relatively constant over a long period of time in humans, although there may be minor short term changes as the intake fluctuates. If carbohydrate, fat, or protein is consumed in amounts exceeding energy needs, the excess is stored in the form of triglycerols. That is what we see in the past few slides. The fat stored in this way can be drawn up for energy and enables the body to withstand periods of fasting. The biosynthesis and degradation of triacylglycerols are regulated reciprocally, with the favored path depending upon the metabolic resources and requirement of the moment. The rate of triacylglycerol biosynthesis is profoundly altered by the action of several hormones like insulin. For example, promotes the conversion of carbohydrates into triacylglycerols. People with diabetes mellitus, due to failures of insulin secretion or action, not only are unable to use glucose properly but also fail to synthesize fatty acids from carbohydrates or amino acids. They show increased rate of fat oxidation and ketone body formation. So insulin has an effect on synthesis of acetyl CoA as well as fatty acyl CoA. So basically, triacylglycerols, they all are in homeostatic state. Whatever the levels is taken inside the in the blood, they are carried as after the liver, sorry, in intestine the fatty acids are absorbed, and then they are transferred to by lymphatic vessels to liver, and in liver you have the synthesis of triacylglycerol. That triacylglycerol can get into the blood, where you can have lipases that can release the fatty acids and glycerol, or the triacylglycerol itself can on the cell surface, the lipases will release the fatty acid and glycerol is put it back into the blood. Fatty acids are absorbed into adipose tissue, and here the fatty acids can get converted again to triacylglycerol, and this is a forward pathway of formation of a triacylglycerol in adipose tissue, goes on till the fatty acid comes to a normal phase. Now coming till now, what we have seen is synthesis of triacylglycerols. Now we will see synthesis of phospholipids, membrane phospholipids. The end product of phospholipid biosynthesis are very large. You know, phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylethanolamine, phosphatidylserine, and different derivatives of phosphatidyl like cerebrosides, etc. There are many end products. So very few examples I have taken in this PPT as synthesis of membrane phospholipid. In general, the assembly of phosphatidyl from simple precursor requires synthesis of backbone molecule, that is the glycerol or sphingosine, and attachment of fatty acid to the backbone in ester or amide linkage, and then followed by addition of hydrophilic head group joined to backbone through a phosphodiester linkage, and in some cases alteration or exchange of the head group to yield the final phospholipid product. In eukaryotic cell, phospholipid synthesis occurs primarily at the surface of smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Some newly synthesized phospholipids remain in that membrane, but most are destined for other cellular location. So, synthesis of the backbone, that is the diacylglycerol, I have explained in the previous slides, till the phosphatidase, phosphatidide phosphatase, which releases if you remember the synthesis, which releases the phosphate group and form diacylglycerol. That is the starting point for forming the phospholipids. So suppose phospholipid formation is asked in the exam, you should not start from this step. You should start from the formation of glycerophospholipid. The glycerol 3-phosphate pathway forms the basic diacylglycerol, and then diacylglycerol is used for the synthesis of the membrane phospholipid. From there you have to start explaining. After the formation of diacylglycerol, there are two strategies for attaching the head groups. That head groups means the key at the C3 carbon, you have the attachment of phosphate and the other groups. So that can be done in two ways. The first step, of glycerophospholipid synthesis are shared with the pathway of triacylglycerol. That is what I was telling you. Two fatty acyl groups are esterified to C1 and C2 of L-glycerol 3-phosphate to form phosphatidide. Now the second phase is the polar head group of glycerophospholipids is attached to a phosphodiester through a phosphodiester bond in which two alcoholic hydroxyl forms an ester with phosphoric acid. So there is the OH group of the alcohol and the phosphoric acid, and you have release of water, and you have the release of water from the alcohol which is getting attached, and you have the formation of glycerophospholipid with the phosphodiester bond. In the biosynthetic process, how this is done, it's I can say two-step process. And the diacyl glycerol, the CH2 group is attached with cytidine diphosphate, and then the hydrolysis of the cytidine. There are two basic strategy. First, activate the glycerol, diacyl glycerol, and then you attach the other alcohol. The second strategy is activate the alcohol and then you transfer the diacyl glycerol. So 1,2-diacyl glycerol is activated by attaching the cytidine diphosphate, and then you have the OH group that will attack the phosphate group and release cytidine monophosphate, and then you have formation of glycerophospholipid. In the biocentric process, one of the hydroxyl group is first activated by attachment of nucleotide cytidine diphosphate. Cytidine monophosphate is then displaced in a nucleophilic attack by the other hydroxyl group. The cytidine diphosphate is attached either to diacyl glycerol, forming in effect an activated phosphatidate, cytidine diphosphate diacyl glycerol, or to the hydroxyl group of the incoming group. The central importance of cytidine nucleotides in lipid biosynthesis was discovered by Kennedy. So the same thing, here you have a different example of a serine group getting attached, and phosphatidyl first activation of 1,2-diacyl glycerol by cytidine diphosphate forming the cytidine diphosphate diacyl glycerol. You have the breakdown of the pyrophosphate drives the reaction, and you have serine group getting attached by the enzyme phosphatidyl serine synthase. You have the displacement of cytidine monophosphate, and you have the synthesis of phosphatidyl serine. Now phosphatidyl serine, if you remove this CO group, that is carbon dioxide, with the help of phosphatidyl serine decarboxylase, you have the synthesis of phosphatidyl ethanolamine. And another compound can also be synthesized with the same starting molecule, that is CDP diacyl glycerol. With the help of phosphatidyl glycerol 3-phosphate synthase, you have the glycerol 3-phosphate removing the cytidine monophosphate to form phosphatidyl glycerol 3-phosphate, that further with the help of the enzyme phosphatidyl glycerol 3-phosphate phosphatase gets converted into phosphatidyl glycerol with the release of one molecule of PI, inorganic phosphate, and then with the help of another molecule phosphatidyl glycerol, with the release of glycerol, you have this final molecule cardiolipin formed. Phospholipid synthesis in E. coli employs CDP diacyl glycerol pathway. The first strategy for head group attachment is illustrated by the synthesis of phosphatidylserine, where phosphatidylethanol and phosphatidylglycerol in E. coli. I have explained this the same what has happened in the last slide. So we'll go further. So here there is cardiolipin synthesis in case of eukaryotes. You have the 1,2 diacyl glycerol CDP, that with the help of phosphatidyl inositol synthase, the CMP is released and you have phosphatidyl inositol synthesis, and the other side with the help of phosphatidyl glycerol you have the cardiolipin synthesized. Eukaryotic pathway of phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylethanolamine, and phosphatidylcholine. In yeast, as in bacteria, phosphatidylserine can be produced by condensation of CDP diacylglycerol and serine, and phosphatidylethanolamine can be synthesized from phosphatidylserine in a reaction catalyzed by phosphatidylserine carboxylase. An alternative route for phosphatidylserine is a head group exchange reaction in which free serine displaces ethanolamine can also happen. Phosphatidylethanolamine may then be converted to phosphatidylcholine by the addition of 3-methyl group to its amino group there, where the donor is S-adenosyl methionine. So here you have the phosphatidylserine formed, and this on decarboxylation forms phosphatidylethanolamine. On addition of 3 molecules of methyl forms phosphatidylcholine. This is one of the pathway. In mammals, phosphatidylserine is not synthesized from CDP diacylglycerol. Instead, it is derived from phosphatidylethanolamine via the head group exchange reaction. So here, this phosphatidylethanolamine can have an exchange with serine with the help of phosphatidylethanolamine serine transferase, and you have the formation of phosphatidylserine. In mammals, synthesis of all nitrogen containing phospholipids occurs by strategies 2, that is phosphorylation and activation of head group followed by condensation of diacylglycerol. For example, here choline is unused, that is in salvage pathway, by being phosphorylated, then converted into CDP choline by condensation with CTP. If diacylglycerol displaces CMP from CDP choline, producing phosphatidylcholine. So first choline is taken, it's activated with adding the phosphate group. By the help of choline kinase, you have phosphocholine formed, and then that phosphocholine is attached with cytidine monophosphate, that becomes this CDP choline, and this CDP choline with the CDP choline diacylglycerol phosphocholine transferase transfers this activated choline to diacylglycerol phosphate, so forming phosphatidylcholine, the strategy 2. An analogous salvage pathway converts ethanolamine obtained in the diet into phosphatidylethanolamine in the liver. Phosphatidylcholine is also produced by methylation of phosphatidylethanolamine using S-adenosylmethionine, as I described in the previous slide. So this is a summary of different pathway. Like you have the mammals where, for example, choline is converted to phosphatidylcholine, but in case of bacteria and yeast, it takes a different pathway. Now coming to sphingolipids, the biosynthesis of sphingolipids occurs in 4 stages. That is synthesis of 18-carbon spignanin from palmitoyl-CoA and serine, attachment of the fatty acid in amide linkage to form ceramide, desaturation of desaturation of spignanin moiety to form sphingosine and attachment of head group to produce sphingolipids such as cerebroside or sphingomyelin. Okay. NADPH provides reducing power, and fatty acids enter as they are activated CoA derivatives. In cerebroside formation, sugar enters as their activated nucleotide derivatives, head group attachment, or sphingolipid synthesis. So we'll see this pathway. First, you have the formation conversion of palmitoyl CoA, that is addition of serine to form beta keto spignin, and then you have the dehydrogenase action to form spignin, that is spignin dehydrogenase. Then you have the formation attachment of fatty acyl CoA to form a ceramide containing spignin. Now then you have the mixed oxidases which carry out the further reaction. You have the formation of ceramide activated by UDP. It can go to form cerebroside, or the ceramide containing spignin can be uh, done with a head group attachment to a choline molecule to form sphingomyelin. This is an important slide. They have asked formation of sphingolipids in one of the paper. After the synthesis on smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the polar lipids, including the glycerophospholipids, sphingolipids, and glycolipids, are inserted into different cell membranes in different proportion. They are like not soluble in water, so they have to be transported in terms of vesicles that bud from the Golgi complex, then move to and fuse the target membrane. They are also cytosolic protein that can bind to phospholipids and sterols and carry them from one cell membrane to another and form one phase of the lipid bilayer to the other. The combined action of transport vesicle and these proteins produces the characteristic lipid composition of each organelle membrane. So in this lecture, what I have spoken is how triglycerides are formed, the four different pathway. I have not explained activation of fatty acid into fatty acyl CoA because that is the first step of beta oxidation, which we have already done. After forming glycerols, they can be stored in the body in adipose tissue, and you have other phospholipids which are formed from the intermediates of this triglycerol forming pathway, that is using diacyl 1,2 diacyl glycerols, and you have different attachment at the C3 carbon, that is you can have a serine, you can have a choline, or you can have just phosphatidylglycerol, or you have the formation of cerebroside. Apart from that, we have also gone about like formation of the sphingolipids, one example, and that full you have to write it down as how you can interconnect and represent in exam as one answer. This will be asked for 6 marks, so you need to explain with all the structures and enzymes and what are the factors, like NADPH is used. Don't confuse with NADP and NADPH. Here in one of the steps, NADPH is used to form NADP plus. The second step, the conversion of beta keto sphingomyelin to spingamine. That step it is used, and then you please write down and then practice. All the best.